So here we have our router heads. They're all built the same, 1 to 3. Pre-drill, counter router, and our router. We also have a chisel option on this machine. So we have our top left chisel, bottom left chisel, top right chisel, and bottom right chisel. Okay, so let's go over some of the sensors on the heads. We have a sensor right here, that'll be your right chisel retracted. Sensor here, which will be your router retracted. Counter router retracted, pre-drill retracted, and left chisel retracted. So underneath the router head, we have our reverse crash eye, home eye, and forward crash eye for the y-axis. Here we have your z-axis, reverse limit eye, home, and forward limit eye. Okay, and for the x-axis, we have our reverse limit, home, and forward limit, and this will be the same on all 3 heads. Here we have our router head shift assembly. This will be the adjustment for the 2040. Over here, we'll have the adjustment behind for the 2340, and same thing on this side, but this will be for your 2240 option. Here we have our 6-shooter assembly. This is our out position eye and in position eye. On the right side of our assembly, we have our stop switch, which is triggered by these turrets. Notice that each turret is at a different height. So the longer ones will be used for a softer door, and the shorter ones will be used for a more dense door. So behind the 6-shooter's y-axis bearings, you will find a sensor which will tell you that the chain is up. On the left side of our assembly, behind the y-axis bearing rails, you'll find a sensor which is our head-up sensor. Also on the left side of our assembly, behind the y-axis bearing rail, you will find our lower switch, which is for our head-down position. So on the opposite side of our stop switch, this is our reverse limit switch. So when the 6-shooters are driving, they'll actually be going backwards to the very last second, and that's just to catch the screw better before it plunges in. Here we have our 6-shooter shift assembly. Head 2 is on a ball screw connected to a servo. That'll be adjusted on the Maytag. Here you have your 2040 adjustment, 2340 adjustment, and 2240 adjustment. On head 1, on the 6-shooter shift assembly, we are on 2 cylinders and an all thread. This will be your 2340 adjustment, 2240 adjustment, and your 2040 adjustment. To adjust the 6-shooter of head 2, you want to go into the setup screen, and that'll actually be your screw shift offset in location. So if the hinge was being applied too far to the right, you would go negative, which will bring you left, and if it was too far left, you would go positive, which would bring you right. So each head has 1 e-stop. Head 2 actually has 2 e-stops. On head 3 is here, head 2 one is here, and on head 1 we have one here. So if that was triggered for any reason, you'll want to turn it counterclockwise to release, and you'll have to come back to your screen, hit the machine power start, and rehome it. There's also a e-stop on the Maytag and on the gate when it's opened. On the router heads, it also has an e-stop on the upper left-hand corner. If the lid isn't placed properly and it is not pushed down, the machine will not run, just like a normal e-stop. And if it were to be pulled off during a run, which would make the machine unsafe, it would stop the machine and you would have to come back, restart up on the power, and rehome. So when the door and jamb are clamped up, the door will be clamped by this door clamp, which will go up vertically, and the back section will be the horizontal clamp. Jamb has a horizontal clamp here and a vertical clamp here. So the back section and the door clamp will actuate at the same time, clamping the door securely. So in the center of your head 2 H block, we have our jam in place eye, and that will need to be cleared after every cycle. Here we have your next before right hand stop eye, which will tell the machine that the door is still behind the door stop. Now here we have our after right hand stop eye, which will tell the machine that the door is past the door stop. You're good to come up and retrieve the door. In the middle of the machine, we have our door in machine eye, which will tell the machine and the corresponding machines that there's a door in the machine and it is not safe to feed in. Here we have our left hand door stop eye, which will tell the door stop to activate before the door passes. Here we have our door sense eye, which will adjust the width of the back section to correspond with the incoming door. Here we have our first before right hand stop door eye, which will tell the back section to stop sizing. Here we have our narrow door eye. So when that eye is not covered, it will trigger the narrow door to pop up and size for the incoming door. On the back section, we have a series of eyes that size the door. Here we have our outside fence and our inside fence eye. They're usually spaced about 33 millimeters apart, and when the door is coming in, you'll want it about 6.5 millimeters from the fence. Here we have our narrow door option eyes. Here's the outside fence and inside fence, spaced about 33 millimeters apart, and you'll also want it 6.5 millimeters from the fence. So here we have our door stop assembly. We have our vertical cylinder that'll physically pop the door stop up. We have our adjustment bolt for the 2040 size. When it's all extended, this will actually be your 2340 adjustment, 2240 cylinder, and all adjustment is made with this all thread right here. So here we have your faceplate router. You can adjust the degree and size of the cut using these turrets on top and on bottom. For the bottom ones, you'll have to turn off the air so you can physically lift the plate up and turn them around. And always make sure to turn your air back on. Behind the lock bore motor, you'll have your bottom bore retracted sensor. From the operator's position on the right hand side, top of the back section, we have our top bore retracted sensor. And on the right side of the faceplate router, standing opposing the operator position, you'll see our faceplate router retracted sensor. So here we have 3 of our 4 oil reservoirs, which are filled with our special Cis Lube. They're put at a specific height, so when the cylinder sucks it up, it doesn't overfill and go into the valve bank. So the 4th reservoir will be down here, located on the right side of your bottom bore limit switch. So here we have our air supply, quick shutoff valve with an exhaust, water catch, air regulator, and our oiler. You'll want to shut off the air before pulling any of these fixtures off. And you can simply pull down and twist either left or right. So with the water catch, you want to make sure that there's no moisture in there, and if there is, you can just simply dump it out. And over here, we have a Cis Lube specifically for these machines. You'll want to fill it up to the max fill line.